The Matt Gaetz ethics report is out and wow. Use and possession of illegal drugs, paying for sex, accepting impermissible gifts, improperly giving special favors and privileges, obstruction, sex with a girl who was going into her senior year in high school. Those are just some of the things the bipartisan House Ethics Committee says they have substantial evidence to prove against Matt Gaetz in this brand new 42-page report. Yes, I read the whole thing, and this is going to be a long video because there's a lot in that report. But before I tell you what's in it, there are three things I want to make very clear. One, the former congressman has denied everything that's included in the report. In fact, he filed a lawsuit in federal court this morning to try and stop the public release of it. In a post on his X account this morning, Matt Gaetz said, "There is a reason they did this to me in a Christmas Eve report and not in a courtroom of any kind where I could present evidence and challenge witnesses." Two, it's important to remember the Department of Justice also looked into Matt Gaetz and these same allegations. In February of 2023, the DOJ chose not to bring federal charges against Gaetz. They did not say why they made that choice, but there could be a whole host of reasons. And obviously, the federal government cannot bring state charges. And three, this investigation and the report was done by the House Ethics Committee. You have to understand this committee is very different than any other committee in the House of Representatives. Ethics is made up of an equal number of Democrats and Republicans. No other committee is set up that way. This committee is responsible for enforcing the rules and protecting the sanctity of the House in an impartial way. To get anything accomplished in this committee, at least one lawmaker has to cross party lines to agree with the other party. This committee investigation into Matt Gaetz started in April of 2021. And while some on the committee opposed releasing this report, the majority of the committee, Democrats and Republicans, believed the public should know what was going on. As always, if you want to read this Matt Gaetz report, I will email it out in full tonight in my Newsgirl News Roundup email, so make sure you sign yourself up. Okay, the committee's report says based on the evidence they uncovered, Matt Gaetz not only violated House rules, but may have also violated state laws. The committee said they did not find sufficient evidence to conclude that Gaetz violated the federal sex trafficking statute, but they said he did transport women across state lines for purposes of commercial sex. And they outlined several House rules that Matt Gaetz violated and outlined several state crimes that they allege he may have committed. So if he was violating all these rules and state laws, then why didn't the House do more to punish Matt Gaetz? Well, one, because by the time this investigation was completed, Gaetz had resigned from Congress, so technically they didn't have any jurisdiction over him. And two, they say they did not want to risk the further victimization of the women involved. See, several women involved told the committee that they were afraid to give any more testimony because they had fully cooperated with the federal investigation. And in the end, those women said the feds basically left them out to dry when the feds chose not to pursue criminal charges. In fact, the Department of Justice refused to hand over the testimony of the women or even to cooperate with this House Ethics Committee investigation. The DOJ says that was because of their long-standing practice of protecting the targets of their investigation when there are no charges filed. For the record, the committee report says Matt Gaetz also did not cooperate with this investigation at all. So what does the committee say they can prove? The report says, while a sitting member of the United States House of Representatives, Matt Gaetz engaged in commercial sex, which is a crime in the state of Florida. The report details multiple financial transactions between Matt Gaetz and an associate to women who attended these parties hosted by and attended by Matt Gaetz. Some of the women were brought in through a website called seekingarrangements.com. Now, one of those Gaetz associates told the committee that he and Gaetz would split the costs of drugs, hotels, and girls. The committee says they have evidence of that dating back to July of 2017 all the way to 2020. The committee says Gaetz made tens of thousands of dollars in payments to women that the committee determined were likely in connection with sexual activity and or drug use through PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. The report even includes this chart, which is what the committee says they can prove Matt Gaetz paid to all of these women. Now, not all of these women cooperated with the investigation, but the committee says they found substantial reason to believe most of these payments were for illicit drugs and sex. The report says Representative Gaetz did not appear to have negotiated specific payment amounts prior to engaging in sexual activity with the women he paid. Instead, the women had a general expectation that they would typically receive some amount of money after each sexual encounter. On top of the sex, the committee has text messages from Gaetz about getting drugs. The committee says they have texts from Gaetz to two women who traveled to be with him in New York in January of 2019, where Gaetz asked, "Who can help with party favors?" According to the committee, those favors were drugs. And while the committee says all of the women who they were able to interview said that their sexual activity with Gaetz was consensual, at least one of them felt the drugs involved may have impaired their ability to really know what was going on or fully consent. Indeed, nearly every woman that the committee spoke with could not remember the details of at least one or more of the events they attended with Representative Gaetz and attributed that to drug or alcohol consumption. The committee says they have evidence that Matt Gaetz violated Florida's statutory rape law while he was a sitting member of Congress. Now, this is something that obviously Matt Gaetz vehemently denies, but there's a whole section in this report about Gaetz having sex twice with a 17-year-old girl at a party in 2017. That minor had just completed her junior year of high school and recalled being paid $400 in cash, for which she understood to be payment for sex. She said she was under the influence of ecstasy during the sexual encounters with Gaetz, and she did not inform him that she was under 18, but the committee said he also didn't ask her age. As for other House rule violations, the report found Gaetz violated the House gift rule, which says no member of Congress can accept a gift over $50, and any gift, including travel expenses, even between friends, cannot exceed $250 and must be formally approved by the Ethics Committee. Well, the report found Gaetz went on a trip to the Bahamas in 2018, paid for by an associate of Gaetz who also happened to have connections to the medical marijuana industry. The committee interviewed that associate who said Gaetz had paid for meals and other various expenses on the trip, and that covered his share of the vacation rental. But the committee says no one who was actually on that trip recalled that Gaetz paid for anything, and the committee could not find any banking records to prove that he paid for anything. The report also says Gaetz obstructed the Ethics Committee investigation, which is a violation of House rules. And the report said he dispensed special privileges and favors to another woman he had a sexual relationship with by using the official resources of his office to expedite a passport for her, which is another violation of the House rules.